We've spent 2 years scouring the globe for people who were at the heart of life-changing events.
Is that California then, USA?
So this is a very strong lead for us.
The gift of a second chance to put things right.
It's been a long time.
A very long time.
It's time to say thank you. We don't say thank you enough in this world.
Tonight, the search for a man last seen over 30 years ago.
First, I'm on my way to meet the man who needs to find and thank the strangers who saved his life over a decade ago.
Other than what I think are their first names and nationalities, I have no other information whatsoever. It just seems such an impossible task.
Andy, how are you doing? All right?
All right, good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. How was the trip? All right?
It was good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good.
On Boxing Day 2004, the most devastating tsunami in recent history hit southern Asia, killing nearly 250,000 people in just a few hours.
You feel just so small and helpless in the face of nature. Armageddon is, I suppose, a good way to describe it.
The fact that Andy Chagger survived is down to the bravery of 3 men he'd never met.
They, put their own lives at risk and didn't think about the consequences. They just got on with it.
At the time, Andy was 27 and was taking time out from his engineering job to go travelling around Asia. He spent Christmas Day with friends at the beach resort of Khao Lak in Thailand.
We were up until about 6 a.m. All of us were just sitting on the beach, enjoying a few drinks, enjoying each other's company. It was literally only about 4 hours before the tsunami struck. I was woken up, I think, first of all, just by the noise, also the shaking. I suppose it felt a little bit like an earthquake. The room was vibrating. The noise was it's also very hard to describe. The only way I've been able to describe it is a bit like the noise of a jet engine building up. It was getting louder and louder and louder. That was the last thing I remember being in the bungalow. Suddenly I was in the water. The sensation of going over and over and, just being totally out of control. Sheets of metal, bits of wood, glass, it was all slamming into you, forcing me back under. I remember something hitting me in the head at some point. I don't know what it was, but it's what caused the injury there. I was literally fighting for my life.
As the first wave turned and started dragging everything back out to sea, it left Andy stranded on the first floor of a half-finished building. But the danger wasn't over. Tsunamis often generate more than one wave, and Andy was stuck just a few hundred meters from the beach.
I knew there was no way I was going to be able to get out. I was so badly injured. Started calling out for help, but no help was coming, which was very, very tough, kind of feeling like you'd been abandoned and left alone. Wasn't sure if I was going to live or die or not.
Just as Andy had lost all hope of surviving, he was rescued by 3 strangers.
If they hadn't have done what they did and you were left there, what do you think would have happened to you?
I don't think I would have made it. My will was slipping. I'd kind of been drifting in and out and trying to look at ways I could try and move myself, but I couldn't do it. I was too badly injured. And I heard voices from below where I was trapped. They came up to me and, almost immediately they were thinking about ways to try and get me off this building site. And they were asking me if I could walk, which I couldn't. And then they were saying, well, we're going to go and try and find a door or something we can improvise as a stretcher. And then while they were just about to leave to go and do that, there was a warning of another wave coming.
So they were risking their lives?
Yeah, absolutely they were risking their lives. In the condition I was in, it was an incredibly slow process getting me off this building. If they'd have just decided to just get out of the way, they could have run and been off that, in safety within minutes. They put their lives on the line trying to get me out, and that's something that I'm very, very grateful for, obviously.
What do you remember about them?
I remember that they were late 20s, early 30s, I would say.
How many are we talking about here?
There was 3 different guys. 2 of them I thought were potentially American, at least from their accents.
Right.
And then there was another guy, and I'm pretty much certain he was Swedish. And I think his name was Sven. And I'm more confident about that because I'm sure as Sven arrived, he said, "Hey guys, have any of you seen a Swedish girl that he was looking for?"
And what did he look like?
He looked almost stereotypically Swedish, blonde hair, you know, between 5'10" and 6 foot maybe.
Okay. And any names that you picked up from the other 2?
I think one of them may have been called Gonzalez. You know, I remember one of those guys being fairly beardy and unshaven. It's, you know, obviously kind of where my state of mind was at that point.
Of course,
the trauma of it, it's definitely difficult to know what details I've got completely 100% accurate.
Why is it so important for you to find these guys and to say thank you?
In terms of giving me perspective in the tsunami, you know, it makes me realise, you know, how important it is that you tell people how you feel, and that, you know, it's things being left unsaid is I think you know, it's never a good thing. So to be able to find these guys and, you know, be able to let them know what they've done would be fantastic.
The fact that Andy remembers so little and the memories that he does have are so vague makes this our hardest search yet. If we are going to stand any chance, we need a clear plan of action and an awful lot of luck. Okay, so here we have the 3 men involved in Andy's rescue. The first one, Andy remembers nothing about. No name. So, the chances of finding him are 0. So we'll move on to this character, Gonzalez, who Andy thinks has an American accent, but he doesn't know where he's from. Now, the thing is, Gonzalez is very rarely used as a first name, but it is one of the most common surnames in Spanish-speaking countries. There are millions of Gonzalez all across the world. So we're going to have to discount him, which leaves us with this man, who Andy thinks is called Sven and is possibly from Sweden. Now, I know it doesn't sound a lot, but at the moment, it's all we've got to go on.
With a population of under 10 million, focusing our efforts on Sweden is the simplest way of narrowing down the search.
Now, apart from the vague physical description of a man of medium build with blonde hair in his late 20s, early 30s, all we've got to go on is the name Sven. And I am assuming that there's quite a few Svens in Sweden.
Assuming Sven had travelled out to Thailand from Sweden in 2004, the best place for us to start our search is Sweden's biggest travel company.
Is it Lottie?
Yes, that's me. Hi.
I found you at last, my word.
It's hard to find.
What a wonderful part of the world.
Well, I'm sorry, you got lost, didn't you?
Lottie Knudsen is one of their directors. I want to know if she'll agree to search their records for us.
Would you still have those records from 2004?
Well, first, I'm not sure. I need to check. You know, there are some laws sometimes that you're not allowed to keep names. So we need to check that. And it's also that Sven, you know, it's a first name.
Yeah.
And they are normally alphabetical via the surname, the family name. So that you would need to check manually.
Yeah.
I'll give it a try at least to see if we can find something.
What was it like for you knowing that you did have customers out there?
It was really horrible. I think we had 4,000 something affected customers.
So you knew people that were killed?
Yes, a lot of people. It was horrible. We were actually apart from the Asians, of course, we were the most affected country in the world. You ask any Swede, and they will probably remember where they were physically, in what spot they were, first time they heard about the tsunami. This was a big trauma.
Within a few days, Lottie got back to us. She didn't have a record of any Svens. We asked other major travel agencies and tsunami relief charities to check their records for any Svens of the right sort of age. They also drew a blank. We were back to square one.
Andy's the first to admit that he was in a really bad way, slipping in and out of consciousness in a lot of pain, and there's a very good chance that he may just have got the name of his rescuer wrong, and that Sven isn't Sven after all.
While we look for another way to find Andy's rescuers, we begin our second search. Back in his hometown of Leicester, tsunami survivor Andy Chagger is waiting for news of our search for his 3 rescuers.
It's more important now than perhaps it was a few years ago, just because of where I am in my life. I mean, you know, it's been a long road to recovery.
When the tsunami hit, Andy had been 6 weeks into the trip of a lifetime with his long-term girlfriend, Nova.
I had a wonderful relationship with Nova. She was such an amazing woman in so many ways. She was just very animated, very passionate about everything she did. She was the one, and it was in many ways kind of our last hurrah, as it were, just travelling around the world and just enjoying that together before we settled down.
The last time Andy saw Nova alive was in the seconds before the wave hit their beach bungalow.
I remember literally her being on one side of the bed and me being on the other, probably about 8 feet away. And I think you know, that was one of the hardest things in the aftermath for me, because she was literally so close. I could have reached out and grabbed her. It just felt like the end of the world. I mean, I was emotionally distant for so long. I mean, I really just felt like I didn't want to connect with anybody because of going through that loss.